Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll discuss some of the important work that was done at the Cattle Industry Convention in Phoenix. Plus, a look back at some of the exciting wins for the beef industry in 2017.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. Earlier this month, thousands of cattlemen and women blazed a trail to Phoenix for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show. Many people engaged in the policy review process and were updated on beef industry priorities for the upcoming year. So what are some of the challenges that we'll face in 2018? We asked several folks from around the country to share their concerns.
The biggest challenge to me in the beef industry for 2018 is going to be to continue to market our product out there to the people, just to continue to sell beef and to compete with the other proteins out there.
You know, the price point right now is our biggest, for me, I don't know how to budget whenever we're kind of still a little bit off on where our market should be. So it's hard to budget. I like to go out a couple of years, and when you can really only budget for a year, it's kind of tough.
Well, one of the biggest challenges some people overlook is labor. Actually, labor in our packing houses and labor on the ranch, H2A workers.
The biggest thing is we need to focus on our customer. And somebody told me not very long ago, was a CEO in Australia that said, "Your customer, who is your customer?" And I said, "Well, it's the consumer." And he goes, "No, your customer's the processor." And so sometimes we need to think about maybe who our customer is and who we're trying to sell a product to, and really work on building those relationships, whether our customer, we think it's the consumer or we think it's the processor, the stocker, the feeder, whomever buys our cattle. And as long as we continue to focus on that, I think our industry will continue to propel forward.
Well, I don't know if maybe for the whole entire beef industry, but I know that we don't have a lot of water up in Utah right now. We didn't have a very strong winter, so that I could see that being a concern for us. Maybe a drought year, our prices might go down a little bit like that.
I think the biggest challenge is going through stating the farm bill and what's happening. That's a big issue that's coming our way, and seeing if we're going to reinstate it or add something new or go through it. So that's a big thing that'll affect not only just as beef producers, but every agricultural consumer out there.
Getting our trade going again, getting back into Japan and Korea, and obviously we've made some moves in China, but we still have a lot of fronts in Europe and Russia, and still a lot of places to go.
And joining us now to provide more insight on the 2018 convention is NCBA CEO Kendall Frazier. Kendall, let's take a quick look back at 2017. NCBA chalked up some pretty important wins this year. Tell us a little bit about those.
We did. We were successful working with EPA and stopping the Waters of the United States rule, which was a massive invasion of property rights. We helped Congress pass the new tax reform legislation, and there's some good things in that legislation for cattlemen and American agriculture. We were successful in getting a foot in the door in the China market. Long term, we think that's going to be really something positive for U.S. beef exports. In the checkoff program of work that we do, we launched the Rethink the Ranch whole campaign, which is telling the beef production story from farm to fork. We've also consolidated and relaunched the Beef is What's for Dinner plan. So we had a really good year last year.
And I want to ask you more about a couple of those things in just a minute, but we just heard from a group of producers at convention about their thoughts of 2018. What are going to be some of NCBA's priorities this next year?
Well, we're going to be active in Washington, D.C., as we always are. We've got 25 member staff back there in the halls of Congress, working the halls of Congress, working the regulatory agencies every day. Trade is going to be a big issue. We're going to watch very closely the NAFTA renegotiations. Our message to the administration is do no harm. There's an effort to renegotiate the Korean Free Trade Agreement. Our message there is do no harm, because you know, as well as a lot of people know, that exports are really important to the U.S. beef industry. We're going to be working the environmental issues with EPA And we're going to be really active in Washington, D.C. Plus, we're going to continue some of these marketing programs that we have to do, that we need to do in order to move this increased supply of beef.
That's absolutely critically important, and we're benefiting from that right now. So you mentioned the Beef It's What's for Dinner campaign, and obviously NCBA is a proud contractor to the checkoff. Tell us about some of the work you've done there over the last year.
Well, we have. We stepped back and did some consumer research and found that that slogan, Beef It's What's for Dinner, has a tremendous brand equity with American consumers. And so we stepped back, we relaunched the campaign with a marketing and advertising and public relations campaign to celebrate kind of the anniversary of when that was started many years ago, and we've had a really terrific response to it.
It's been phenomenal. I challenge all of our viewers to get on that website. There's some great stuff there. What number of convention does this make for you?
This is number 33 at the national level, and I had another 7 that I attended at the state level.
That's phenomenal. So what's your favorite part of conventions?
Meeting the members and cattlemen who come here and the opportunity to talk with them. In this role that I have at NCBA, I don't get near enough time to do that.
Right.
But I'll have a chance to go into the trade show and be in the halls and the committee meetings and the general sessions. And it's always fun for me to talk to people who are involved in the industry every day, Kevin, to find out what's on their mind, what's keeping them up at night. What could we be doing for them with dues dollars and checkoff dollars to advance the industry? That's what the enjoyment I get out of these conventions.
Yeah, it's a great time. And so for folks that may not have been able to make it here in Phoenix, what guidance do you give them to get engaged in NCBA and the beef industry over the next year?
First, get involved at the local level, get involved in your state cattlemen's association, and then you can get involved in NCBA. And get engaged. Come to the convention next January in New Orleans. We're going to have a big crowd there. We'll have a lot of fun, do a lot of work in New Orleans. We haven't been to that city for a long time. But I would encourage anybody to come to this convention. There's so much you can learn, so many people that you can meet, and you'll have a great time.
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic week, and we do look forward to going to New Orleans. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Kevin.
As Kendall just mentioned, it's important to keep up to date on the issues facing cattlemen and women. You can help make a difference in the industry by becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call toll-free 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take a closer look at how the Cattlemen's Beef Board works to increase beef demand. Plus, an in-depth look back at some of the key moments in 2017 for the beef industry. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
I find that the Public Lands Council does a great job in representing my members.
Having someone like the Public Lands Council in Washington, D.C. is huge for us.
Every time we have a change of administration, we've got a new educational process that needs to take place.
And the Public Lands Council does a really good job of that, of sharing kind of the reality of what the ranchers deal with every day to those who aren't that exposed to it.
I think PLC plays a great role in helping to inform and help political leaders to understand the nuances that take place on public lands.
We obviously can't get away all the time to go to Washington, D.C. and to argue these issues.
There are very, very few groups as small as the public land ranchers in the West that have a track record where they were that effective.
In terms of working with the Public Lands Council, I'll tell you as one senator, I want to work with them, I want to stand with them, and I want to fight for them because they represent the people of our communities.
Welcome back. 2017 was an exciting year for the beef industry for many different reasons. During the convention in Phoenix, participants were given a review of some of the wins we saw as cattle producers last year. Here's a look back at some of the key moments that made an impact.
It's been quite rewarding to be chairman of the CBB this year. The places I've gone, the people I've got to meet, anywhere from a veal plant in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to the markets that we supply in Japan and Korea. It's just been an outstanding opportunity to go see things and meet people and see actually how the checkoff works.
It's been very interesting to me to see how passionate women are. If they have this lifestyle, if they love raising the animals, or if they are out there wanting to promote the beef part of it, how passionate they are.
NCBA has a lot of momentum right now. We've had a lot of victories on the policy side. Right now, I'd like to see the checkoff portion, being a proud contractor of the checkoff. Things are really cooking over there, I would say. We're getting a lot of things going. We've been able to partner with a lot of people, whether it be on policy or whether it be in the food industry, as far as making a difference and having our voice heard. Sometimes that's a direct correlation, sometimes it's indirect, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If it moves the industry forward and benefits all producers out there, then it's worth the effort.
You know, I've been around and met people and they want to know, well, you know, what do you do? And I always refer back to, well, if you've ever heard of beef, it's what's for dinner.
When people hear beef, it's what's for dinner, the music and the voice, it really does lead to them to eat more beef. And that's really what we're all about, is getting people to eat more beef. But what's different about this time is that for the first time, we're actually combining information about the people who raise beef. That's what consumers, that's what millennials want to know today.
I think that's one of the things I'm really proud of that we've accomplished this year, is we've got that 90-second video of basically how beef is raised from pasture to plate.
Yeah, these are the people and the places that keep Old MacDonald running like new, where commitment and innovation help make sure beef will always be what's for dinner, and maybe breakfast, lunch, and the occasional snack. Meet today's farmers and ranchers who bring beef from pasture to plate at beefitswhatsfordinner.com.
The first time I actually watched that, I literally got chill bumps, because I thought, you know, that's what we do, and that's a great story to tell and a great way to show it. And it made me think, you know, I'm a beef producer, I contribute to the checkoff, and that's mine, I own that, that's part of what I do. And it just gave me a good feeling. Also, that's a great tool for the consumers to kind of relate back to the ranch, to where, you know, their food is being produced, and, you know, they can see that we're out there to preserve the land and the cattle, take care of them, and we're producing the highest nutritional value of product that we can.
The global beef supply is rising, and the United States is in a grand position to fill those needs of the high quality beef, because we are growing that particular product worldwide, where a lot of other countries cannot supply that. We fit in really well. We don't want to be all things to all people, but there is a market for our product out there, and we need to capitalize on that.
So on behalf of all of our U.S. producers of this wonderful U.S. beef, we want to thank you for what you do. I am convinced when our Chinese friends taste this tasty, wholesome, healthy, safe U.S. beef, they're going to want more of it, so you all better get some more cows.
We're excited about China because obviously that is a huge, huge market to be able to work through that. I know we have some time to have to work through the glitches and what it takes to be able to continue to get more beef over there.
There's 1.4 billion people in China, but the really interesting thing is their middle class is bigger than our entire population over here. Their middle class is 20 to 40-year-olds, and they're looking at higher protein in their diet. They have the money to spend. It's not China like we remember China. There's a whole new horizon over there, and a grand opportunity. The cattle markets have really been a surprise this year. They've been higher than what was anticipating. We've grown this herd now back from the drought several-fold, and we're getting up to around 32, 33 million cows is what they look for the forecast, so we have a growing supply. Consequently, we still only have so many people to feed, so that's why trade is so vitally important. So we're going to keep that drumbeat going on trade.
Well, USMEF, whenever we use the checkoff dollar into those contractors, we're gaining market access into those foreign countries, and we're looking at about 25 to 30 countries that are actually active in foreign market development and market access programs. So they use the money to the best of their ability to get the biggest bang for the checkoff investors here at home.
We're 40th anniversary of the USMEF office in Tokyo, in Japan. Our first office overseas, in Tokyo years ago. And of course, this is our largest value market and has been for a long time, and will probably continue to be for a long time. So we're excited about that. And even though it's a market that's been around a while and it's our largest value market, it's a market that's still growing.
Millennial has been our target here for about 3 years now, almost 4 years, and it's the largest consumer group that we're trying to reach. That's our target group. They want to know everything there is to know about the food they're eating. They want to go back and know how it's produced. They want to know the people connected with it.
We want to make sure that we're open with what we do, that our production practices are in line with what we think animal care and animal welfare should be. We also think that there's no other way to convert cellulose that these plants have into a safe, wholesome product for the American public. We think it's a sustainable use to make beef.
American Farm Bureau Federation is the newest contractor to the beef checkoff. And since we've got them up and rolling, they've done tremendous jobs educating youth in grade schools and youth activities throughout the younger kids' lives. And I think they do a tremendous job, and I hope they keep up the job that they're doing in the schools and so forth.
We've been on the offense versus the defense. What's allowed us to do that is now we have a team of 18 people that work on behalf of every producer every day of the year. And consequently, we can be involved with this administration. We've had the opportunity to meet with the Secretary of Agriculture, the Secretary of Interior, the Secretary of the EPA. We also work with this administration's top people in the White House.
A lot of great things happening for us in the cattle industry right now with this new administration. It's amazing we have an administration that is reaching out to us. They want to understand what our issues are, and they're willing to address a lot of those issues. I think one of the best examples out there is what we have seen from the EPA and the new administrator, Scott Pruitt, in regards to rolling back the Waters of the United States rule.
We've rolled back a lot of overburdensome regulations. I read the other day that for every new regulation they wanted to get rid of 2. It's now for every new regulation we're getting rid of 22. That's very positive for the beef sector. This is the first opportunity in 31 years to have meaningful tax reform. It's still a big win for a lot of our producers out there. So we can pass these operations from generation to generation without having to buy them back. When you go to the country with wins instead of being just the no vote, people are understanding why they become a member and why they pay their dues, because we can make a difference.
The quality of people I get to work with over the several years that I've been involved with the checkoff are just phenomenal people. In fact, I think that each year I've been there, the group of people that comes up are even better, and I think they're going to keep getting better as we go into the future. We've had really good leaders step up to the plate and accept those responsibilities and get the job done. They've been a great group to work with.
I started Cattlewomen with Minnesota Cattlewomen in about the year 2000. So here I am, cheerleader. But it's been a great journey. It's been an incredible journey that I won't forget.
You know, the real pleasure about being NCBA president, I get to go out to the country and meet the people on their own grounds and see what their issues are in their own states, and have them one-on-one conversations, not just show up and deliver something, but actually build meaningful relationships and strengthen that state and national partnership, because the grassroots of our organization is built on that foundation. It's quite remarkable, the people in our business and how they work diligently every day to make sure that they have an operation that's very viable and very sustainable for the next generation.
No doubt, with exports at a record pace and the relaunch of Beef It's What's for Dinner, 2017 was an outstanding year for the beef industry. Coming up, we'll share more about the plans to build on success this year. Plus, we'll take you to Oklahoma to see what life is like back home for the 2017 Beef Board Chairman, Brett Morris. Don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
Don't miss the 2018 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with congressional leaders and federal agency influencers to let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. April 10th to the 12th for the 2018 NCBA Legislative Conference. Details at ncba.org.
No matter what job I've got to do, my John Deere 5E tractor can do it all. Whether I'm cutting, moving feed, or building a fence. Using my 5E means my work gets done faster at a price I can afford, and that works for me.
Earlier, we heard about some of the successes the Beef Checkoff had over the last year in promoting beef to consumers worldwide. The National Beef Checkoff program is led by cattle producers from across the country, volunteer leaders who are appointed to represent their state and serve on the Cattlemen's Beef Board. In 2017, the chairman was Brett Morris, an Oklahoma cattleman. Brian Baxter has more on this cattle industry leader.
If you're looking for Brett Morris, most days you'll find him out and about checking on his cattle. He's the third generation to work this land about an hour southwest of Oklahoma City.
I love doing what I'm doing because I was raised here. I'm not kind of a wall-to-wall guy. I can't stand those four walls and be inside, so this is what I've had all my life, and I enjoy it. You got the freedom to do what you want to and make your own decisions, be your own boss. So it's just very rewarding to see what you can set out on your own and accomplish over your lifetime.
For most of his life, Brett was both a dairy producer and also ran his own cow-calf and stocker operation. These days, he's trimmed back to focus on raising beef cattle.
At this point in time, I miss the dairy cattle, but I don't miss the dairy, but I've still, got those friends in the dairy business and go to quite a few shows and see cattle being shown. And same way with the beef board, places we get to go, I get to meet a lot of people and got lots of friends out there, so very rewarding industry to be in.
No doubt Brett has logged a lot of hours away from his farm over the past year, serving as chairman of the Cattlemen's Beef Board, the producer-led organization that oversees the National Beef Checkoff program. Brett says the volunteer leaders who serve on that board have one primary goal.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that with every move we make that the producer gets the biggest bang for his buck. Bottom line, create beef demand worldwide. I really wish there were a lot more producers that could get out and see those things, and I think we could solve a lot of problems we have, misconceptions out in the country about how their dollar's being spent. If they could see the things that I can see, they would be just amazed in how phenomenal their checkoff dollars being invested and worked throughout the world.
With beef checkoff dollars helping to build export demand and promote beef here at home, Brett says the return on investment to U.S. beef producers is significant.
The return on investment is a evaluation program that's done on how our dollars being spent. The last one was done 5 years ago. And the return on investment that goes back to the producer, every dollar that the producer spends, they get $11.20 in return. We're up to do another return on investment study this next year.
And making sure that 11-to-1 return for beef producers keeps getting better, is the job of the volunteer leaders like Brett Morris who serve on the Cattlemen's Beef Board. In Oklahoma, I'm Brian Baxter reporting.
And joining us now is the new CEO of the Cattlemen's Beef Board, Scott Stewart. Scott, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Let's begin. Tell folks just a little bit about your background.
Well, Kevin, I'm a Colorado native. I grew up on my family's cow-calf operation, north central Rockies, about 100 miles northwest of Denver. And I had the opportunity to learn about the cattle business at an early age. Been very fortunate through my lifetime to be part of the livestock industry, and now, directly with the cattle industry again. So I had 30 years of experience with another organization that represented all livestock producers in the marketing of livestock, and from that process became very closely related to the Beef Board as a contracting organization. So we have a good feel for how that operation works.
So as you take the reins as CEO, what are some of your goals for your tenure?
Well, the first thing is I have to say that the Beef Board is very fortunate in the fact that they have an incredible leadership team at the board level as well as the staff level. They've got some great staff members who I very much look forward to working with. Having said that, my goals are certainly to serve that board in its aims in the next several years. There's some very good prioritization work going on this week that we'll take back and certainly integrate into the programs and work with the contractors to serve those purposes. So in this first year, my biggest goal is to get out, meet all the State Beef Council folks, let them get to know me, because it's such an important working relationship.
The checkoff has been around for over 30 years. Sometimes we take it for granted. Why is the checkoff so important?
Oh, is there any other program that can come together as an industry to provide that funding for research and promotion of the things that really need to occur in any industry, but certainly beef industry, because it's so very important. The one thing that I think is most important is the beef checkoff is driven by beef producers. They are the ones in the driver's seat of creating what the priorities are and being responsive to markets and so forth. Most recently, obviously, in the last several years, the focus on export markets is so very important to any beef producer, whether you're part of a beef council, a beef board, or just out there producing beef.
And so as you look ahead, what are some of the biggest opportunities you see for the checkoff in the future?
Well, certainly information is huge, and the change in the focus in the last several years to really focus and get more real-time usable information into hands of consumers. They have questions, and they're legitimate questions about maybe how beef is raised and the nutritional values and how it may compare to other protein sources. That's so very important and needs to be, pardon the pun, but made into bite-sized pieces that can really be digested by those consumers out there in the next generations.
Yeah. We've covered the relaunch of the Beef It's What's for Dinner campaign on this show. How important is that to driving demand for our product?
Oh, incredibly important. As you know, Beef It's What's for Dinner is one of the most recognizable slogans that has ever been. In fact, just an aside, when I took this job, people that weren't familiar with it, it's easy to tell them, well, this is the organization that helps with Beef It's What's for Dinner. Oh, okay, well, that's great. So it's very important, and we've got a new generation now. It's good to get it back out there. It resonates so well.
We need demand growth more now than ever. So thank you for your leadership, and we'll look forward to having you back on the show.
Thank you very much.
Remember, you can check out the new Beef It's What's for Dinner website for a great interactive experience. You'll find things like recipes, information on beef cuts, and nutritional information at this one-stop shop for all things beef. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll highlight the outgoing president of the American National Cattlewomen. Plus, we'll head to Arkansas for a look at an innovative new way to help you grow more grass and fewer weeds. Stay with us.
There is a new world out there, revealing itself in unpredictable ways. A world that demands more from the land and those who grow, farm, and build on it. This new world calls for the ingenuity to get more out of it, while preserving as much as we can. After all, to stay ahead of tomorrow, we need to be equipped for it today.
Well, I think a rancher has to be a steward of the land. There's nobody else that can take care of the land better than a rancher. When we switched over to the Purina products, it was a step in the right direction.
The difference we see in the cattle is the consistency of their nutrition.
The cattle hold their condition a lot better throughout the whole year.
It does make a difference that we can see, day in and day out.
You're watching NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV.
There were actually 3 beef industry groups gathered at the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention in Phoenix: NCBA, the Cattlemen's Beef Board, and the American National Cattlewomen, also known as ANCW. ANCW was led this year by a woman who may not have been born into a cattle family, but her passion for the industry is undeniable. Brian Baxter has more on this Minnesota cattlewoman.
Penny Zimmerman and her husband Bill raise Charolais, Angus, and Simmental seed stock at their operation in central Minnesota. Although they've lived in a handful of states over the years, one constant throughout their travels has been the cattle.
We've always seemed to have cattle all through our married life. And the last 30 years have always had some on our place. So it's been quite the adventure.
Penny often wonders how someone raised in the Minneapolis suburbs ends up living on a cattle operation. Turns out her husband gets the blame.
I met Bill in college, and he was a city boy, so I thought I married a city boy, and I was a city girl. And lo and behold, we live in an apartment when you're first married. What do you expect, right? And he's reading these cattle magazines, and I'm going, what did I get myself into? So I discovered, well, he was spent every summer in Minnesota at his grandparents in Paynesville, who raised Charolais. That's why we have Charolais, because he was raised with Charolais.
Although Penny wasn't raised on a farm, she grew up loving the summers on her grandparents' dairy. And over the years, she's volunteered her time with several organizations and served as the 2017 president of ANCW, the American National Cattlewomen.
American National Cattlewomen is an organization that helps empower women who have a passion for the beef community. It's been very interesting to me to see how passionate women are. If they have this lifestyle, if they love raising the animals, or if they are out there wanting to promote the beef part of it, how passionate they are.
As ANCW president, Penny had a chance to travel and meet with cattlewomen from all across the country.
What has been amazing, first of all, to see the culture, the different ways that people raise cattle all through the country. It's very versatile. And so we have to be accepting as to how each of us raise our cattle. I find that the cattlemen have the same basic goals as the cattlewomen. We're all out there to try to tell our story, to get the word out, what our industry's like, and how we raise our animals, and do it in a caring way. So it's not that different. We just work together.
The ranching lifestyle is one Penny has grown to love, and it's easy to see she has a passion for raising beef.
Living on a ranch or a farm is a lifestyle that we embrace. And if you don't embrace it, you don't stick with it, because it's a lot of hard work. But it makes you feel it's worth it. It feels good inside to do that. And it is a family thing, but it's been a great journey. It's been an incredible journey that I won't forget.
Reporting from Foley, Minnesota, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
American National Cattlewomen serves as a voice for women who share a passion for the beef community. To find out more information about the group, go to the website ancw.org. Still ahead, we'll check in with the cowboy poet Baxter Black. Plus, you'll learn about an innovative way to address both pasture fertility and weed control. We'll be right back.
Public land issues are somewhat unique.
The Public Lands Council is valuable to the ranchers because it's someone out there that's speaking their language.
Somebody has to communicate with the agencies the BLM, the Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife.
Well, the Public Lands Council has provided incredible information and help, I think, to all members of the Congress.
Everything from water rights to endangered species to wildfire to the need to actively manage the lands through grazing.
And there's always a new battle coming up.
The people on the land know much better what's good for them, their land, and their community than anybody in Washington ever will or ever has.
So for them to have someone who is out there helping send their message and helping them keep their industry alive, that's super important for them.
There's no way you can really put a value on what they do for us. So having someone in Washington, D.C., a voice for the industry, a voice for public land ranching, such as PLC, Public Lands Council, is huge.
Cattle producers know the value of grazed forages, and improving pasture production means better feed for your cattle and more profit potential for your operation. Matt Fleck takes us to north central Arkansas for a look at an exciting technology that can put more grass in your fields and more money in your pocket.
Growing more grass gives cattle producers their lowest cost opportunity to put more pounds on their cattle. That, however, is often easier said than done.
Producers need to pay attention to the weeds in the pastures because they are crowding out competing good forages. Every bite of grass that cow takes or that stock or calf takes, you want it to be something that's going to be nutritious and is going to lead to putting pounds of beef on that animal's skeleton.
Weed control is a big deal. You know, when it gets hot and dry in the summertime, if that grass is having to compete with a lot of weeds, you're losing all that. That's our number one fight is weeds.
Producers can maximize forage production in their pasture by getting rid of the weeds. By eliminating 1 pound of weeds, they can grow 2 to 5 pounds of grass in return. And so it's a matter of efficiency to get rid of the weeds, to grow more grass, to be more efficient, and to put more gain on livestock. They can run more cows or more pairs on an acre of ground. And the more number of head they can run on a pasture, they can wean off more calves, which relates to the bottom line. They can wean off more pounds, more number of head means more money, more profit to the producer. And so that's really the end goal.
Fertilizing pastures is a tool many producers use to boost forage growth, but fertilizer alone does not address the issue of weed control.
Most of our producers fertilize their hay fields religiously, and then pastures can, are as needed. If they're stocking more cattle, they'll fertilize their pastures, and that just helps them grow more grass and raise more cattle. On pastures, if they put fertilizer on their pastures or hay fields, and no weed control, they're growing pounds of weeds also. And so with some weed controls, it makes a big difference on their production.
Most of the producers in my area that are truly trying to realize a net profit are very interested in all the aspects of pasture management, and they're always looking for new ways to do things.
Dry fertilizer impregnated with Grazon Next HL or Chaparral herbicide from Dow AgroSciences allows farmers and ranchers to address both pasture fertility and weed control at the same time and at the right time.
So the concept of impregnated fertilizer is really pretty simple. It sounds complicated, but it's really pretty simple. What we're doing is we're just basically mixing the same herbicide as if we were spraying it with the dry fertilizer, except it's undiluted. We just mix same use rate. It's 1 quart per acre of Grazon Next or 2.5 ounces of Chaparral per acre of fertilizer. And so we're just mixing that in during the blending process with the fertilizer. It coats the fertilizer. And then when they spread it, we rely on the residual chemistry of those products to do all the work. We do get some contact activity out of it when the pellets stick to the weeds. We do get some contact activity, but it's primarily the residual properties of the chemistry that do a lot of the work. And that's where we see the good results from.
The advantage of that for our farmers are window of application. Sometimes there's only 2 hours a week that's fit to go out and spray because the wind's blowing, chance of rain's coming, something like that. The benefit on putting it in the fertilizer is the window of application is a lot broader. It gives them more chance to get out and get the product applied in a timely fashion.
The 2-for-1 that you get using impregnated fertilizer, you get your fertilizer put on, you get some nutrients added to your soil, and you're getting weed control that they never could get before. And they're getting it early enough to do a good job. They're not waiting till the weeds are mature, and then sometimes we'd have failures with herbicides. And lots of times it was due because they were spraying too late. Now they're getting timely applications of herbicide and getting fertilizer on both at the proper timing. And it's been just a win-win for using both of those technologies.
For Brandon Olson and his customers like Randy Kimes, seeing pasture health is only one benefit of using impregnated fertilizer. Not only does the one-pass application process save time, but since cattle don't have to be moved off pastures before or after treatment, it also saves in labor.
The results we've seen with the Graze On Next and the fertilizer have been very, very good, better than we had assumed, because most of this research has been 85 to 90% control compared to spraying. We're seeing 100% control of spraying just because they're getting out there earlier when the weeds are smaller. All our customers have been very happy with the results that they've received. So we believe that the impregnated fertilizer is as accurate as spraying, if not more accurate, just because of the evenness you get, and it doesn't matter if the wind's blowing 10, 12 mile an hour. You can get right up next to the fence and know that that's where it stops. So that's a good benefit.
I had 60 acres that I used it on in the spring. I think we got it on at the last of March, maybe 1st of April, which this year I intend on using it, getting out there a little quicker. We was having a bit of a thistle issue. We was having some ragweed issue. And so we used it, and on that 60 acres this year, I don't think I had 3 thistles on the whole deal. There was no ragweed whatsoever. My grass was, thicker, better, a lot healthier. Once we got the weeds out of the way, the grass kind of come along and blanketed and covered the ground. And I feel like my cattle done better. They stayed healthier, looked better. It just lets you keep your grass in better shape to withstand a drought, the adverse effect of the weather might put on it.
Using impregnated fertilizer helps in a rotational grazing system in that you can maximize forage production and would help a lot with stockpiling forage as well, in that you can maximize that forage production and then come back to it later to utilize it at a later time in a rotational system as well.
Impregnated fertilizer is exciting technology that can help pastures thrive, and it is now available for application in 17 states.
If you have some interest in doing this application, doing a fertilizer impregnation application with Graze On Next or Chaparral, I'd encourage you to go talk to your fertilizer dealer, wherever you're buying fertilizer from, see if they have the interest or capability to do it, and then kind of go from there. Or reach out to your Dow AgriSciences sales rep and tell them what you're thinking and kind of just talk it through, make sure that it fits your operation and fits what your fertilizer dealer is doing too. Your fertilizer dealer really has a key part in this because we're going to rely on them to blend it and do that in a responsible way. And so make sure to have that discussion with all 3 of you, yourself, the producer, your fertilizer dealer, and your Dow AgriSciences rep, to make sure that this is something that fits in your operation.
When our customer comes in, they'll tell us how many acres they're going to cover and how many pounds of fertilizer they want to put out per acre. So then we'll calculate how much Graze On needs to go into fertilizer based on how many pounds per acre they want to put out and how many acres they're going to cover. And then we'll help them calibrate the buggy to put out the proper amount. We're here to help our producers, make them be more productive. They have a few more cows, that means they have a little bit more money to spend and more pickups to drive, and it helps the economy all the way around.
Reporting from Harrison, Arkansas, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To learn more about the benefits of impregnated fertilizer and other Dow products for cattle producers, visit the website rangeandpasture.com. When we return, it's time for a visit with the cowboy poet Baxter Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Graze On Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. and you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that. Ladies and gentlemen and followers of cowboy humor, I have carved another book from my funny bone, guaranteed to tickle your humorous. Sorry. The title is Scrambled Wisdom. Almost isn't is it? Which almost makes sense. It's only $19.95 plus shipping. Call 800-654-2550 or online at BaxterBlack.com. Here's a joke. What did he get on his IQ test? Drool.
I was in a Western store the other day when a gentleman stepped up to the counter and asked me which cap he was holding looked better. I asked if he was a baseball player or maybe a member of a rap group, and he said no, he was a horseman. Please show this fine pilgrim how he looks in a cowboy hat, I told the hat man. Well, the buyer protested, and I explained that wearing a good hat was a matter of pride. He said modestly, well, I'm not a very good cowboy. I disown a couple of horses. A cap is good enough for me. I didn't mean your pride, I explained. I meant the horses. Horses are dignified animals. Unlike most other animals, they have majestic ancestral role models. They are the creatures that legends are made of. Can you think of a single other animal that could have been substituted to save the day for the man from Snowy River, or the Lone Ranger, or Coronado, Robert E. Lee, Sir Lancelot, Sitting Bull? No, they've tried camels and donkeys and elephants and even ostriches. Unfortunately, these beasts usually wind up as comic sidekicks. But when a hero needs a ride, he rides a horse. Pegasus, Seabiscuit, Fury, Traveler, Champion, Trigger, Silver, Midnight, and Missy. And the horse is expected to live up to this grand image. Brushing, new shoes, nice tack, riders with good taste, the whole Western wear industry of designer saddles and brand name jeans is fabricated to make the horse look good. So, for my shabby horseman friend who didn't think he was qualified to dress the part by wearing a real hat, you can see the damage he might be doing to his horse's self-esteem. It's like putting the bridle on over the halter. You think the horse doesn't notice? It's like wearing your underwear outside your pants. So do your part, good horseman, and remember, in riding, just like in cooking, presentation is half the meal. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thank you, Baxter. We sure enjoy our visits with you. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date with what's happening with NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you can find us on Facebook. We keep you posted with information about upcoming shows, farms and ranches we're visiting around the country, and we share legacy photos too. So check us out on Facebook. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this.
The 2019 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show is set for the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, outstanding entertainment, and much more. So let's go to New Orleans for the 2019 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, January 30th through February 1st. Details at ncba.org.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Grazon Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
Welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. As a former FFA officer, I was proud to see lots of blue jackets at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show in Phoenix. The Friday of convention was FFA Day, which included an ice cream social where members could network with professionals and learn more about the beef industry. Culver's supplied the ice cream and paid the fees for the first 200 FFA members and advisors who registered. It's all part of Culver's Thank You Farmers project, which supports agriculture education programs that encourage smart farming.
Culver's is actually really good at sponsoring everything for the FFA, the national FFA organization, not even just local organizations. So it's pretty neat that we got sent an email saying, hey, Culver's wants you guys to attend the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. We'll pay for your kids, take them to the convention, take them to Phoenix. So I jumped right on that. It's a short 2-hour drive for us. I thought it was really important for my kids to be able to see what we had going on here today.
We thought it'd be cool to see what was out in the cattle industry and in animal industry also, and different opportunities for us, like career-wise or anything.
We attended the NCBA because of Culver's with the free registration, and also it's a great opportunity for students to meet industry people and learn a little more about ag. There's a bunch of my kids that they're not as in touch with cattle, and so hopefully learning about the different breed associations and the different breeds and how they can get involved.
It's important for us to be here to be able to learn the new different job opportunities and to learn about cattle and the beef industry and what's out there to look for as agriculture kids in the FFA.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll be back with more next week right here on RFD TV.